Hi, Up With People world. I am Donna Reed. I traveled in Up With People Cast A 1976, which hopefully this is not the first episode of the Cactus Corner that you have watched, and you all know that by now, because there'll be a quiz at the end. Now, so I'm super excited today, you guys. I know I say that a lot, but this is really going to be exciting for those of you who used to listen to this band play, and whether you wanted to or not, you listen to them play because they're at like every reunion. So I am here today with Bob, Pat, Willie, and Ken, and all members of the band that many of us knew as Arizona and who have assisted at a lot of reunions. So I'm going to call on you based on how I see you on my screen. Bob, let's start with you and see if you can remember those questions I told you that I wanted to hear from you.
Well, you didn't tell me I had to memorize them.
Okay, well, okay. When did you see a show, Bob?
Bob, do you want them?
No. No.
Okay, tell us.
I was 17 when I joined Up With People. I'd seen some of the shows going way back with Linda Blackmore. I've always liked Up With People. And then a group that I was in high school performed for a cast that came in 71. And
where'd they come to, Bob? Where'd they come to?
They came to Yuma, Arizona, my hometown. And the guy that was playing guitar came up and started trying to sell it to me. and I just ignored him. I just said, I don't know, maybe, we'll see. So anyway.
All right. And then you joined, and did you join with an instrument, Bob, like right away? Were you playing an instrument when you got
to? I took one with me. I didn't know for sure I'd be playing, because I don't think anybody really knows. That's up to Ken. That was up to Ken and Herb and the Caldwells, and Frank was there, and Doug Holsworth and Herbie, and everybody was there, Ralph. And we kind of went through a process where we talked with them. We played a little bit of music, and
they decided,
they made a decision at some point who was going to play and who was going with what cast and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, and tell everybody where you're zooming in from today.
I'm zooming from Tucson, Arizona.
Go Tucson. All righty, Pat, you're next for me.
Okay, I'm Pat Murphy, and thanks for having us here today. It's always good to be with fellow bandmates. We don't get to see each other very often, but I am Pat Murphy, and where did I see the show? I saw Up With People at my high school right outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, back in 1971, and it was Cast B 71 that I saw.
Okay.
And what else?
Did you leave and did you have an instrument?
I was 17. I was 17. I was a senior in high school. And I saw Up With People. And, my thing at that time, I was playing with a band already. And we used to learn things by ear, just kind of learn how to play. And I grew up on James Brown and Kool and the Gang and Motown and Stevie Wonder and all that stuff. So we were always learning, music by listening to the records. And Up With People came along, never heard of it, had no idea what it was. And I just kind of dug it. It looked like something I'd be interested in. So I got their record, the double album at the time. And just like I was learning other records, I learned the Up With People record. It was just one of the things that I enjoyed doing. And there was some cool stuff on there, and some good songs, great message. So I kind of hung in there with it. And next thing I knew, I was interviewing with Ron Beckett and Dave Stimpson and John Parker. And John Parker, who was the cast director at the time, says, so why are you interested in this outfit? What do you want to do? I said, I thought I could, contribute something. I don't know what yet, but we'll find out, I guess. So, they asked me to bring my bass. I brought my bass guitar with me, and the rest is almost history. I now live in Denver, Colorado with my wife.
Recently, you posted recently about a show that you did, and I was telling Caleb, because Caleb lives in Denver. I was like, you should go listen to Pat Murphy play.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pat had to, when Pat came, we had to really break him of this habit of playing the bass with his ear. You know, he was playing by ear. We had to break him of that and get him to like playing with his fingers.
Wah, 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 wah.
So you don't have to tell you just right away based on people's age. So you said you dug it and you sold a double album and all those things that I wonder if 20-year-olds even know
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well,
what
well,
that
you know, we
means.
used to. It was shortly after these things came out. You know, there were these, and there were albums that were made of vinyl that you'd put on a record player.
I know. All right, Willie, tell us about you. Where did you see a show? Where you?
Wow. Well, it was actually my junior high school music teacher who had seen Up With People, and he had become the director of the local sing out that started with Up With People came through. That was in 67. And I saw my first show in 68 in Riverside, California, where I grew up. And I was with cast B 1970, the high school cast. So I graduated from high school on the road. And I was with 71B, took some college classes, and then 72A, 73C, and staged with 74A in Belgium, and then came over, and that's when we started the band.
Okay, so we're gonna get to that. And you live in Southern California, correct?
I live in Santa Ana, California. Yes.
Santa Ana. Are you still where you were when Heidi and I visited you like 10 years ago?
In that
or
general
something?
area. Yeah, in that general area.
Yeah. Nice. All right, Ken Ashby, tell us a little bit about you and your life story.
Well, I saw my first show in 1966. I was in Tennessee at the Tennessee State University and didn't know anything about it. The audience I was in a band on campus, a folk group, and my buddy said, "Let's go." So we went, full stadium, full arena for everybody, and we saw the show and interviewed the next day. Began traveling about 4 weeks later in 1966. I was 18. I didn't have an instrument, didn't know how to play one. And now I live in Virginia.
So you didn't do this? You didn't play by ear?
No, I didn't play. No, that was something that those Philadelphia kids were doing. But
we eventually taught Ken how to play guitar.
You did eventually. So then I traveled with cast A, the original cast, and then pretty quickly was sent to cast B, which was the first cast B, and then started the first cast C.
Wow.
And after that, it gets a little hazy.
I don't even, Tim Lane and Tim traveled in my cast, and he doesn't even try anymore. There's, any of you who did all those years and all those things. So did the four of you ever travel together in the same cast before you were sort of invited?
Yes.
You did?
Yeah.
You all were? Okay.
Which cast was that, Willie?
That would have been that would have been 72A.
72A,
Well,
right. I was in
72A, yeah.
72A.
Were you in? Yeah, we were all in 72A,
And
Ken, I think you were in and out.
73B.
Well, no, I was. Yeah, you guys were B. Yeah,
Pat and Ken and I were in 73B.
Right.
Okay.
I was in 73B too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ken
So
doesn't remember that, but I do.
it's like, racking the brains. And I love the look, Pat, you should see the look on your face of like, hi.
I know. It's a long time, going back 50.
Can we tell
years.
Can we tell stories now or not?
Well, not yet. Not yet. So
Okay.
I will tell you that I didn't. So I had a chat with Bob before the surgery that he had recently, so we talked a little bit about, your history. And then talking to David Mackay, like he told me a little bit about how he wanted this person to be in charge of this and this person to be in charge of this and these people to come together. And I was like, oh, and who were you? He goes, I was just the guy that when they called to record an album was the one they asked to do it. What a weird way to be introduced to all of this, right? So apparently you all must have been pretty good because everybody
and
wanted
the
you to.
surprising thing is he went for it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so when did when did Arizona playing together as part of Up With People, when did that separation have to take place? Ken, why don't you tell me your version of what happened there?
1974, I think, right, guys, is when we
Well,
started.
that's where we started, yeah.
That's when we started.
74 is when we started.
Right.
And I don't know, we were in Atlanta when we got the call that Up With People had to separate from Arizona because Arizona was a profit-making company and Up With
But that
People
was
was
that was
not.
after we had been together for 5
Wait a minute.
years.
We made profit. When did that?
Yeah,
How
we
did I
never
miss
made
that?
profit, but I can't remember, but Ken had to fly to Philadelphia or someplace
Yep.
and sit in with a meeting of the board of directors.
Oh.
And he came back to Atlanta and told us, and we called Dave and said, "What do you think?" And he goes, "Great, man. You don't have to share anything with them."
No, the idea originally was to pull together people like Bob and Pat and Willie, and who had been in the cast for a while, but maybe there was no place else. Maybe there wasn't another option for us. But Dave wanted to create a group that they could pitch to record companies and have a profit-making arm sort of Up With People. So that's how we came in. Eventually, though, the board decided that, oops, that really didn't fit the nonprofit status. They found out that they couldn't do that. So at that point, we were cut loose, and that's when all the good stuff happened.
Sort of. So before I forget, I want to mention the drummer, Peter, right? So did you have more than one drummer throughout? So Peter Cook, is that how you said his last name?
Peter Cook, yeah.
And he passed away a couple of years ago, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Correct. So 75, I have to bring this up because my ex-husband was at the University of Arizona and saw a show there at a stadium. And it seems to me that you all played there. Is that correct? Pat, why don't you say, oh yeah, why don't you tell the world about that?
I happen to have
There we go.
He's got all the props.
Oh, yes.
well, I don't know if you can read that.
In appreciation to Arizona for participation in TME, in the American Heart Association Fleetwood Mac benefit concert. Wow. It was Marshall.
What year was that, Pat?
1977. It was when this album.
77?
Yeah, it was when this album was top of the charts. Rumors with Fleetwood Mac.
Right.
And there we were, just barely getting going as a band. We'd never played anything like that before. Well, I mean, all of us had done things with Up With People. Traveled around and played huge arenas and stadiums all over Europe and in Mexico, but never as a 7-piece band. So this was, it was Fleetwood Mac concert. It was Kenny Loggins, Marshall Tucker, and Fleetwood Mac, and we opened up.
And Arizona.
And Arizona.
Arizona, of course.
We're the only band that had their name on the stadium, by the way.
That's right.
Yeah.
On the what? On the
Remember
what?
that.
On the stadium.
Right. Good point, Willie. I like that.
It was that big A. It was never called Marshall Tucker.
Right.
Oh, exactly. It wasn't called Fleetwood Mac. It was called Arizona.
It's called Arizona.
Who are those people? I gotta tell you, I saw Fleetwood Mac. Actually, oh my God, who's the girl, the woman? It's
Stevie Nicks.
Thank you. Look, I did this. Did you know who I meant?
Sure, absolutely.
So I was at a show in Phoenix a number of years ago, and I was sitting in the seats, like super high nosebleed seats, with all the other old people who were looking down, and we were where you could watch her walk backstage and change and then come back out in yet another flighty, anyway, it just makes me laugh to think about it. So, all right. So then I came here in 76. I was part of the bicentennial, the wrap up of the bicentennial, and then going into the spring of 77. And that's when myself and a lot of alumni from that time frame remember going, was that the DoubleTree? Is that where you guys were playing pretty rough. And so at that point, were any of you still helping up with people, or were you just living here in Tucson and doing your thing here? Or what was that piece of life like? Willie, why don't you tell me your memory of that?
Oh yeah, we worked heavy staging probably like up until 78, 79, somewhere around that time period. You know, Bob and Pat and Ken and everybody would work with the musicians, and Mary and I would work with the singers, and yeah, we had a great time.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what?
We were also writing for them. We were writing songs for the shows, and then we were recording when they did their albums. We would go in and record. We recorded quite a bit of those albums, right, guys?
Correct. Right.
Yeah.
What was the
I think
what
we
was
just
there was a recording studio here that everybody used. What was that recording studio?
Leafers.
Leafer. Okay.
Leafers.
I think we
Yeah.
did seven Up With People album.
Wow.
Right around
Wow.
there.
And
Yeah.
and
It was
you know,
always
you
fun,
mentioned
going in and working these albums and getting together with Paul and Ken, Herbie Allen, Frank. I mean, all the writers getting together, and they'd come in with their songs, kind of bare bones. And Arizona, as a band, we'd sit there and play through the chord progressions, and they'd
That's
work
fun.
out, finish up the lyrics, and work out the progressions, and then we go and start recording.
that's very cool. That playing by ear served you well at some point. That's fun. That's fun. So, all right. So now it's the late 70s. Tell me, Bob, tell me your remembrance of like, how long did you play together? And then how did you kind of then drift off into your new life?
Well, we had gone to England and recorded our third album, and actually the fourth album
As Arizona, yeah.
as Arizona at Dave Mackay's studio, and we got a little disillusioned with the record company at that point, which was RCA England, and Ken and I went and met with the president of the UK, the RCA branch in the UK, and we just basically said, we need you guys to get behind us and help us out a little bit and get us on board with another opening for another band or something. And or let us go and we'll maybe find a smaller company. And of course, we never heard from them after that. And so
There go the profits.
I finally literally called them and said, oh, well, what do you want to do? Well, if you guys really want out, I guess you can be out. And that was kind of how it ended. And so we decided to take a break. So we took about 3 months off.
Okay.
And to kind of regroup and, reapproach the whole situation and what we were going to do. And Ken, we got together and Ken had decided it would be best for him to move on. And I had already had a child and just born, and so things, we weren't making a whole lot of money. And I thought, well, this is probably a good time for me to throw in the towel as well, and because it was going to be redone anyway.
Yeah.
And so Ken and I left, and I went to work for the police department.
Right.
Ken went to work for Up With People, and we had some other jobs. I think Ken had a few other jobs, and then the band continued to go for another, a year and a half.
Another 2 or 3
Closer to
years.
3, about 3 years.
Okay.
About 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, I had recommended Milton Spaulding, who was also an alum from Up With People, to take my place, or Kevin Brown.
Oh,
And Kevin was also a student around the time that you went in, I think.
yeah.
Somewhere right in there. And so they took Milton, and Milton lasted, I don't know, 6 months or so, a year maybe. And then
Yeah, about that time.
he decided to go. And so Kevin Brown came in and finished up Arizona. And then the last performance they did was January 1st, New Year's Eve of 1981.
Yeah.
Oh.
Wow, you got a good memory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No
That's
hair, but
amazing.
good memory.
The reason I remember is I played with him.
Yes,
I
right.
played the very last show with them, and I was all excited and happy and everything, and everybody else was kind of a little bit down. But we got through it and played to a packed house at the DoubleTree, and it was a lot of fun for me because I was already a cop at this point.
Yeah.
And anyway, that's when it stopped. Everybody kinda went
So
to-
I promised you, or at least said if we had time, I would do this. Ken, what is your favorite story to tell about somebody else here?
Well, this is gonna be good.
That the Up With People world can hear.
we can tell the Peter one about the.
Yeah, well,
Well,
no,
Peter's not here.
I
You can't
got
do
it.
that.
first off, I think that I just want to say that being in a band with these guys and spending the time we had together with Bob and Pat and Willie and Mary and Peter Kook and Doug Holsworth
Right.
was one of the most phenomenal experiences. All these guys are so talented. So it was just such a great thing to be with them. And to be part of that group, be part of that Arizona history. It was, I still have my, I was going to show you this.
I go like this. I look
Oh, the
like I
belt
could.
buckle.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
What is
Oh, it's
that?
it's a bracelet.
Yeah, that's.
Aw.
I have my buckle somewhere.
I don't have my belt buckle anymore. So the story, I will tell you a story. Pat Murphy, I'll tell you this story. Before,
Okay.
did you want stories about Arizona or just stories in
No,
general?
just
Okay,
stories
good.
in general. I don't care.
I'll tell this story. I could tell one about everybody, but Pat Murphy came to Burlington, Vermont, was his first year on the road with the cast. He came to staging, and Frank Fields and I were working through all the musicians, auditioning, so to speak. You know, that no one had to audition before you came up with people, but once you came, we were trying to figure out who was talented, right? We know the story. Pat walked into the room with his bass. Frank and I were like, oh, okay, cool, this guy from Philadelphia, and said, well, can you play something from the show? Can you play a song? And Pat said, well, what song do you want? And so I don't know, we picked a song. Frank and I just looked at each other and said, okay, fine, picked a song. And Pat proceeded to play the song, the entire song on the bass, no vocal, not singing, just playing the whole song on the bass. And then he played the next song on the bass and the next song and he played the entire album. Just Pat and a bass guitar.
Pat and the bass.
Frank and I couldn't keep up with him. And so we said he thought he should be in the chorus.
A dancer.
But I tell you, Pat left the room and Frank and I were jumping up and down. Oh my God, this guy's so talented. And that's my story.
That's awesome.
Stick to it.
That's awesome. Pat, do you have a story to share about anyone?
Oh boy, which one do I pick? Well, thank you, Ken. Yeah, well, I'll tell you, it was an honor, as Ken says, to work with everybody in the Arizona band, and with Willie and Ken, and Bob, and Doug Holsworth, Peter Kook, Mary Dobbins. It was just magical. It was one of those experiences that you just, you feel very fortunate to have had. But we had some good times out there on the road.
Really good times.
Also, having that opportunity to also work with the Upper People guys, Paul Caldwell, Ralph Caldwell, Herbie Allen, Steve Caldwell to a degree. And it was just, we felt very fortunate to be in that mix, but like I said, we had a great time on the road. I have one thing, Ken, this is a Ken story. A little different than the Pat story, but we traveled all over the country with the band, from the Northwest to the Southeast and all ports in between. We were always going somewhere. But there was one, and sometimes traveling through the South was a little iffy for some of the band members, right, Willie?
Polite way to put it.
We
I
were
know
in,
what story you're telling.
we were playing at a club in Camden, Arkansas, and very, very kind of down home sort of place. It had rather than bar tables and bar stools, it had like picnic tables in the club. And so we had gotten ourselves set
High
up.
class. We only played high class clubs.
Only, yeah, that's right. Only the very finest. But we had gotten set up and we decided to go have a bite to eat before the show that night. So we go into this little diner, cafe, mom and pop place, and had the, you know, the checkered tablecloths and the place settings already on the table. It was real down home. And so we all go and we're sitting at a table, and we had made our order. And we noticed, and we looked around, and there's kind of, you know, good old boys kind of sitting there and in the, you know, bib coveralls and this sort of thing, and, you know, just kind of checking us out. We were very odd looking, I'm sure, coming into a small town in Arkansas. And so our dinners come out, and, you know, the salad first, and it was one of those places that has the salt and pepper shakers, and they use the Heinz ketchup bottles for your salad dressing and everything else. They just got to do it that way. And Mr. Ashby decides that his ranch dressing needs to be shaken up a bit. So he picks up the bottle, he starts shaking the bottle of ranch dressing, not realizing that the lid wasn't on very tight. So he's just shaking away, and this salad dressing's flying everywhere, and it flies on the biggest, meanest looking good old boy at the next table with a big old long beard. And he's just covered with salad dressing down the front. And of course, Willie and I are looking at each other going,
Which way you going?
How quickly can we get to the door? And so it's almost like, you know, Donna, it's almost like time stood still for a moment to see what this guy's reaction was going to be. And he's sitting there and he's looking at Ken, he's looking at the salad dressing, looking at Willie and I, and he just starts going, he just starts laughing. And thank goodness it just broke the mood. So everybody was into it. And Ken says, "I'm really sorry, man." He says, "Oh, don't worry about it, dude. We're all family here." But
That's awesome.
Get that one.
That's awesome. Oh, yeah. Well, Willie, what about you? You got a story you want to share?
Oh boy. Well, this goes to our very beginning. Before we even did our first gig anywhere, we got an invitation to go to Denver to audition at this fancy nightclub thing. You know, all the big stars played it, but we were nowhere near ready for prime time. So we get a call, so, you know, can you come do this audition? And I think we left like on a Tuesday, and the audition was going to be Friday. So we went from Tucson to Denver, and then we're going to go back to Tucson. So we go up, we do the audition. Of course, you know, it was okay, but we definitely weren't ready for that level. But there was a talent agent there, and he said, "Hey, listen, can you guys open up in Estes Park on Monday? You know, hey, paying gig, let's do it." But meanwhile, you know, we'd only packed for like 3 or 4 days, and we're doing this 2-week gig out of town. So obviously, you know, laundry and all that stuff. So I was rooming with Peter Cook in Tucson. We had an apartment down on 22nd and Craycroft. And before we left, unbeknownst to me, Peter unplugged the refrigerator in the apartment, you know, to save energy and all that kind of stuff. Because, you know, we're only going to be gone for like 3 or 4 days. We come back. Well, now we're gone for like 2 weeks. So we get back to the apartment, and I opened the door, and it was like somebody died in that apartment. I mean, the refrigerator, you know, milk and cheese, and it was. I'll never forget that. We laughed. Peter and I laughed about that for ages. You know, have you unplugged the refrigerator lately? You know, so that was one of my fond memories of Peter. He was I really missed the guy. You know, we were roommates a long time.
So the computer's telling me we have 10 minutes. Bob.
I got a 10-minute story.
No. You got like a 4-minute story because I have more to do. Come on.
Well, my favorite Ken Ashby story was we were playing in Scottsdale at a Ramada Inn, and my sister lived in Scottsdale, and she had a boss named Tommy, and Tommy and his wife came to see us, and we were playing. So I went up to Tommy and I said, "Tommy, did you bring your teeth?" Yeah. And he said, "Yeah, I got them right here in my pocket." And I said, "Well, you see that guy right there that's And I pointed to Ken and I said, he's going to be singing Feelings this next set. So when he does, I want you and Becky to come dance up close to him and then flash him a big smile with your teeth in. And Tommy's teeth, he had made, a relative was a guy who made dentures, and he made, these are real teeth. I mean, they're real dentures, and it's got abscesses and bucked out and yellow and all kinds. It's just horrible. And Tommy's a real good looking guy, but these teeth are ugly. They fit right over his teeth.
My Lord.
So sure enough, Ken starts singing Feeling, gets real serious, and Tommy comes up with his wife and they're dancing, and Tommy flashes him a big smile, and I go, Ken, look at that guy's teeth. And Ken's like absolutely trying to stay straight and sing his song. I said, Ken, look at that man's teeth. Have you ever seen teeth? Please look at how ugly that is. And Ken's doing this with his hand. He's like, stop, and pretty soon, and I'm screaming at him because I'm dying. I got tears running down my face. And finally, Ken turns around, but you shut up. At the end of the night, I introduced him at the end of the thing, and he said, I'm gonna kill you. But that was the funniest thing, practical joke I ever played on Ken, because it was amazing.
Oh, that is.
There have been a few.
I'm sure
There have been a lot.
over the years.
He got me once at the Santa Rita Hotel too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bob got you. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, we'll have to do a Arizona band part 2. Okay, I want to ask quickly, from an Up With People perspective, is there a song that you collaborated on or you really, really like? I'm just going to say, Don't Tell Me Roads, because everybody says that, or Moonrider. Like, is there anything that was a little bit more unique that you helped with, that you helped write, or that you played that really means something special to you?
Oh boy. Yeah.
Which ones did you like?
Well, I told Paul Caldwell I didn't like I Don't Want to Rule the World. And he just said to me, he goes, they can't all be Grammy winners.
Hey, but that brings us to another great Ken Ashby. Most of the stories about Ken. We're thinking about the Harry Chapin concert and the song that we sang. So that song there, Ken. I mean, I don't know if you want to go ahead and.
What was that?
You're talking about Save the Dancer?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
What happened?
That was a good one. What happened?
Well, first of all, it was a special song that Ken was one of the main writers on, that we really enjoyed putting together. I still remember that opening piano riff with Doug playing it on the old, was that pianette, that Horner pianette thing?
Horner pianette.
And we were at the Up With People studio, and I just remember so vividly helping to put that song together. It was a really special time.
Yeah, that was
a great arrangement. Yeah. Great song.
I think for all of us, that song was, and we played it a lot on the road with Arizona even.
Yeah,
that's cool.
On the Up With People show, and we recorded it. That was a special song written with Frank Fields, Ralph Caldwell, Paul Caldwell, and Steve Cornell. Steve Cornell.
In there. We did Save the Dancer when we filmed for Televisa in the spring of '77. And I don't know if it was Lynn that was danced. I don't remember who danced it, but if you recall that, it was beautiful. And I don't remember who sang it. Don't remember anything about the show because it was 6 weeks in Mexico City. But also, Ken, it made me laugh when they were talking about feelings, because I swear to God, Tim Lane sang "Dime, solamente dime." Like, pretty sure we learned that when he learned that in Spanish. I can picture that too.
I'd love to get it, Bob. So get the guy with the teeth. So have him sing it.
That'd be super hard to do. We are like having your retainer in your mouth. So,
that'd be hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
We recorded an album for a guy that sang without his teeth. We did.
Oh,
the music.
yeah.
We did the music for him. It was hysterical.
Where was that? I don't remember that.
Dunkley.
Yeah,
Oh
John
yeah.
Dunkley.
Oh, my
John
Lord.
Dunkley.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
Aye, aye, aye.
Don't
All
go
right,
to
we have
Waha
to-
with your beer cans.
we have 4 minutes left. 4 minutes and 9.
Yeah, we
4:08.
have
4:07.
4:07. We have to wrap it up. I will say that I don't know how Ron Beckett fits into all of this, but I met him over at Bob's one time when my son was playing music over there, and he's been someone I interviewed. You guys, if you haven't watched these interviews, I hate to say this, especially with old guys, we've lived more life, right? There's way more story to tell. And yet simultaneously talking to the kid that was the cast manager who was from China in 2020, whose parents told him about COVID before we in the States believed it was going to happen. It's freaking fascinating. It's been fascinating for me.
Yeah.
I am so grateful that you took the time to do this today. I will share it, tag you. Please share with your friends. I know that a lot of people will be anxious to hear your stories. Willie's probably the one I know the best because I've, was on the board of governors with Willie, and Bob I've gotten to know a little bit here in town, but I appreciate you all. And I'm super excited that at least
Thank
4
you
of
for doing this.
Yeah,
for
thank
doing
you,
these
Don.
The
interviews.
interviews have
Thank
been
you.
great.
And Will, I haven't seen you since your new do, man.
Oh,
Yeah, well, you-
who are you talking to? Ken has hair. This side of my screen, they got the hair. These guys over here, not so much. So anyway, all right. Happy Thanksgiving, you guys. Again, appreciate you. I'll send you the link when I make it live, and probably see you maybe next year, summer,
Thank you.
because I think it's the last reunion. So hugs
Thank you.
and kisses.
Thank you.
Oh,
Bye,
great
you
seeing
guys.
everybody.
Bye.